Now, you know I review a lot of Windows laptops here on the channel. In fact, I just did the best of 2023. I dropped that last week. I'll leave a link for those that didn't see it. But I didn't really focus too much on the Apple MacBooks or MacBook Pros, and I didn't really want to focus on that. I only wanted to do the ones that I actually reviewed to include in that best of for 2023. Well, that's about to change, as I have a laptop here that I've been using for the past week. It's the MacBook Pro 14 with the M3 Max. So really great creative laptop, phenomenal sound, great for multimedia, watching, consuming all kinds of things on YouTube, Netflix, Amazon, in HDR. And of course, it's got a gorgeous mini LED display that is super bright. Watching HDR, SDR really has been really phenomenal. But we're gonna get into it, all the numbers here and how it compares to some of the top Windows laptops I reviewed in 2023. So sit back, relax, and here is my review of the Apple MacBook Pro with the M3 Max here for 2023. Coming up.
Now, before we get to the unit itself, I just want to let everyone know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by Apple. I'm not being sponsored by Apple. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Apple is not getting copy approval. That means they're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. Now, this unit was purchased with my own money. This is not a review unit from Apple. Now, this is the MacBook Pro 14 with the M3 Max. That's the chip that I wanted to go with. It's good for content creation. 36 gigabytes of unified memory. This is a 14-core CPU and has a 30-core GPU, and it has 1 terabyte of storage. Normally $31.99. Right now, on sale at Best Buy, is $200 off for $29.99. And for those interested, I will leave a link in the description below for more information and where you can buy one. Okay, you know the drill, folks. Let's get this out of the box. All right, really nice packaging once again. This is the Space Black M3 Max chipset. We'll get to that in a moment. Now, you do get a black, or space black, I guess, power cord here, USB Type-C to the MagSafe. So pretty nice that they have it color coordinated here. We'll put that to the side. We'll get to that in a moment. And then, of course, you get the Apple stickers here, documentation here. Here are the space black stickers, as you can see. And then, of course, you get some documentation from Apple regarding warranty, etc., yada, yada, yada. We've seen all this stuff before. And then, of course, we have the 96-watt power adapter. So it doesn't match the color of the space black, but it's a typical Apple white. Okay, it's got the flip-out prongs right there. So typical Apple stuff. We'll put that to the side. We'll need that. And that's it. So pretty nice packaging, once again, from Apple. And then, of course, we get the unit itself. And there is the space black. So it looks pretty nice in person. It has almost like an iridescent glow to it. It's different than the space gray that we saw, of course. And you can see it here. So this is what it looks like. It's pretty nice. I got to tell you, the build quality feels really good. And the overall aesthetics look really good. Again, the space black looks pretty nice in my opinion. So there you can see it. There's the Apple logo, and then you can take a look at the ports. We'll get to that in just a moment. Okay, let's check out the port selection. On the left side is your MagSafe, followed by 2 USB Type-C Thunderbolt 4 ports that are full function, supporting data, charge, and display out, and you get a 3.5 millimeter microphone headphone combo jack. And moving over to the right side, you get a full-size SD card reader, and as a content creator, I certainly appreciate that. But one thing to note, the cards stick out about 3/4 of the way. They do not sit flush with the unit. Just I wanted to point that out. And next to that is a third USB Type-C Thunderbolt 4 port. It's also USB 4 as the other two are as well. And finally, an HDMI 2.1 port to round out the ports on this unit. And I would say all in all, a very good port selection here. Now, as far as the internals and as far as serviceability, not good news as far as the user is concerned. It's pretty non-existent when it comes to the user being able to upgrade the RAM and, of course, upgrade the SSD. You're not going to be able to do that. Everything is soldered into the motherboard. So for the most part, it's not serviceable, although you may be able to switch out battery components and so forth. But again, as the user, unlike Windows laptops, if you want to expand out the storage, you'll have to do it with an external drive. You won't be able to upgrade the SSD as you can with many of the Windows laptops we have taken a look at here on the channel. Okay, let's talk about the display, and it's a good one. You're looking at a 14.2-inch mini LED display with a resolution of 3024 by 1964. And for those wondering, that's 254 pixels per inch. And I got to tell you, this mini LED display is super bright. It's extremely color accurate. It's got good color accuracy. It's excellent for a content creator to do Lightroom, Photoshop, video editing, and say something like DaVinci Resolve or, of course, Final Cut Pro. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, this is a very bright display coming in at 599 nits in my measurements as far as standard dynamic range content. But when you go to HDR, it can peak as bright as 1400 nits. It's searingly bright. So very good display for both indoor and outdoor use. Now, it's also got a high dynamic refresh rate here, up to 120 hertz. So that means you're going to get the smooth scrolling, the very fluid experience that you'd get with a high refresh rate display. That's here as well. Now, unlike some Windows laptops we looked at here on this channel, there is no option for a touch display, which is a bit disappointing. There's no pen support as well. Again, these are things that I like to see as far as options are concerned. You don't get that here. And something else I'm not crazy about, well, I think you can guess it. It's the hideous notch where the camera is housed, and you can hide it with the wallpaper. You can do all sorts of things to try to not notice it. But to me, once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And I know some people say you get used to it. I never gotten used to it, and I would really like Apple to just get rid of it altogether. Go with another solution. Now, those are just some of the negatives. The other one might be the blooming effect that mini LED displays can be subject to. I'm not going to get into it here, but I would say my overall takeaway is the fact that this is an excellent display, especially if you're going to do content creation. That's because of its excellent coverage of the color gamut, the color accuracy. It's all there. Everything you'd want in a display for those type of tasks are here. It's also a great multimedia device for consuming that kind of content as well. So this is the camera on the MacBook Pro 14. This is the one with the M3 Max here, late 2023. What do you think about the video quality? What do you think about the audio quality? Let me know in the comment section below. Couple of things to note, of course, there is no Face ID. You're going to have to use the Touch ID for logging in, but I would like to see Face ID as sometime or eventually come here to the MacBook Pro. I think it's high time that that does occur, but again, right now, not available for it. Of course, we have Windows Hello on the Windows side of things as far as the Windows laptops we look at, but no Face ID, which is a little bit of a negative. But what do you think about the video quality? What do you think about the audio quality? Let me know in the comment section below. Now, for those wondering, yes, you can open the lid with one finger, and the hinges are on really well here. I saw very little, if any, screen wobble when typing. That's good. Now, let's talk about the keyboard. Now, I'm not the most accurate when I type on this MacBook keyboard for some reason. I think I'm a ThinkPad guy, and I really like the keyboard on that ThinkPad X1 Carbon Gen 11, for instance, or even the P1 Gen 6 mobile workstation that I just did. But as far as this keyboard, it's much improved over that very shallow keyboard with the butterfly keys from a few years ago. They've improved that, but it's still not my favorite here. I'm not the most accurate, as I said, but the tactility is decent, the key travel is decent, and the overall feedback is okay. So for typing out long documents and emails, you'll be perfectly fine with this. It's a good keyboard for that. But the touchpad is a phenomenal touchpad. It's a haptic touchpad that is very responsive when it comes to scrolling, doing all the gestures. Everything worked really well as far as doing all the gestures that you'd expect. So very good in that regard. And again, I think this is the best touchpad, bar none, in the industry. I think everything else is below this. I like the size of it. Again, the responsiveness is second to none here. So I really like what they did here. Now, when it comes to the MacBook Pro, there are actually a few choices here. In addition to being able to buy a 14 or a 16-inch model, we have the 14-inch. You could also filter it by chipset. You can go with the M3, the M3 Pro, and the M3 Max. Now, I, as a content creator, decided to go with the M3 Max for the increased bandwidth in terms of the memory, as far as the graphics horsepower. Now, I didn't go for the top of the line. I have a budget here. I didn't want to blow the budget. I'm already spending a lot of money. So I decided to go with the 14-core CPU and the 30-core GPU, and that certainly met all my needs, as indicated by the numbers, as we're going to see in a moment. I didn't want to max it out, no pun intended, because of the price, and I didn't want to generate even more heat. There is some more heat being generated than my M1 Pro. We're going to talk about that now. Now, we're going to get to the thermals in a moment, but first let's look at some of the benchmarks, and let's take a look at Cinebench 2024 and the GPU performance here, scoring 10,245. When you compare it to some of the others, and in this category, did very well. When you look at the CPU score, the single-core score of 140 here was just second to its bigger brother, the MacBook Pro 16, which has a 16-core CPU and 40-core GPU. So that's pretty interesting. And then when the multi-core score, where results are in here, 1,123 coming in third place against some of the units we have here listed. And that, of course, is very impressive in not only the single core, but the multi-core performance as well. Now, for real-world usage and in Final Cut Pro, where I do video editing for the most part, I wanted to see how well it would do. So I took my last video, which is the ThinkPad P1 Gen 6. This is a very intensive project with a lot of graphics, transitions, all sorts of effects. So it's not an easy render here. And as you can see, it took 28 minutes to render it on the new one that I have here versus the older one I was using, the MacBook Pro with the M1 Pro 8-core CPU, 14-core GPU, 49 minutes. So you can see a big difference of 21 minutes here as far as the render time. That's a big deal. It even beat out my Apple Mac Studio with the M1 Max that has a 10-core CPU and a 24-core GPU. That took 30 minutes. That's a desktop. So very impressive for a 14-inch laptop to really outpace both my old laptop and my desktop. That's pretty good. Now, gaming on the Macs have traditionally not been very good. And of course, we've seen a little bit of an improvement here the last couple of years. And with this M3 Max, we're definitely seeing an improvement, that's for sure, especially with the increased GPU performance here. That certainly does help. Now, I do play some of the games as far as emulated titles like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, stuff like that. You could also play GTA 5. And of course, those work pretty well. Sometimes a little bit hit or miss, but you just got to play with the settings. You just got to experiment a little bit. But that's been pretty much the experience. Now, native games for Apple Silicon obviously work much better. This includes Resident Evil, No Man's Sky, Baldur's Gate 3. So those will play a lot better. And the performance of the new M3 Max here is really impressive. So just keep that in mind, especially if you want a game in QHD, you can here. Of course, that is something we really couldn't do prior to this, but with these native games, M3 Max, definitely an improvement across the board when it comes to gaming. Now, the M series of chips have traditionally been very cool and efficient, especially when it comes to the surface temperatures here. Pretty much everyday tasks, idle even, you're looking at 28, 29 degrees Celsius, which is not very warm. So very good in terms of everyday tasks. But when you put it under load, here I'm running Cinebench 2024, I noticed a few hot spots. One is 48 degrees and another above 50 degrees Celsius. So definitely something to be aware of. I didn't see it really much on the M1 Pro from a couple of years ago. So the M3 Max here definitely has more power here, and you're definitely seeing it with regards to these surface temperatures. So just keep that in mind when you're running heavy load here, when you're gaming, you're doing all sorts of stuff with intensive tasks here. You will notice that, of course, going above 50, 51 degrees Celsius. Everywhere else, I didn't really notice much of an issue. On the underside, really wasn't much of an issue. 42, 43 degrees Celsius was the most I recorded, but of course, your mileage may vary. Just depends on the task that you have at hand. But the overall takeaway is pretty decent thermals here, once again, from Apple. And when it comes to the fan noise, reaching as high as 44, 45 decibels, which isn't bad at all. That's under maximum heavy load. Not too bad. But when you're doing normal everyday tasks, the fans hardly come on. Now, they do come on a little bit more than my M1 Pro, but that's to be expected. The M3 Max, again, generates more power. Now, the other great aspect of this MacBook Pro is its battery life. Now, this has a 72.6 watt-hour battery, and the numbers we're seeing here are pretty phenomenal. On the Wi-Fi web surfing test, it got 15 hours and 24 minutes. On the video playback test, it did 17 hours and 48 minutes. And when I did the max brightness test, 6 hours and 38 minutes. These are phenomenal numbers, indicating a very efficient processor. I really am blown away by it. And for comparison, when I looked at the Lenovo Slim Pro 9i, it did 8 hours and 2 minutes on that same Wi-Fi web surfing test. I ran them simultaneously, 9 hours and 12 minutes on the video playback, and got an hour and 15 minutes maximum brightness test. So really a very impressive outing here by Apple, once again, indicating the M series of chips are very efficient. All right, now when it comes to the audio, the MacBook Pro 14 here has 6 speakers, and pretty phenomenal, class leading, industry leading, whatever you want to call it. Now, as a comparison here on the left, I have the MacBook Pro with the M1 Pro, and that, of course, is what I've been using for the last couple of years. And then on the right is the new MacBook Pro with the M3 Max. They both have 6 speakers, so let's see if there's any improvement, if at all. Again, this was class leading at its time, and this, of course, sounds amazing as well. So let's see if we can see a difference. You be the judge. You let me know in the comment section below. Now, let's give them a listen. Well, I couldn't tell a difference. I think the speakers are great, amazing, whatever you want to call it. Not an improvement here. It didn't need to be an improvement, in my opinion. So really class-leading, industry-leading sound. Okay, let's wrap it all up. What do I think about the Apple MacBook Pro 14 with the M3 Max? And I got to tell you, very impressive here by Apple. One of the best laptops here for 2023, and for good reason. You're looking at a high-quality, sturdy chassis, great display here as far as that mini LED display. It's got accurate colors. It's got really great HDR brightness. It's also pretty silent when it comes to the fans, or really lack thereof, during everyday tasks. But you will notice the fans kick in under heavy load. Something I didn't really notice all that much with the M1 Pro. I'm noticing it a lot more with the M3 Max. Just keep that in mind. Very high system performance here. Very efficient chipset, as we mentioned, in terms of the battery life. Some amazing battery life here. Amazing speakers with the 6-speaker system. There is no doubt about it. Class leading. And you get the ability to go up to 128 gigabytes of RAM, 8 terabytes of total storage. But of course, you will pay a heavy price for that, a very heavy premium. premium. Now, the negatives here, of course, you got limited performance in combined CPU, GPU workloads. There is PWM on this for those that are sensitive to that, so just be aware of that. It comes with a 1-year warranty. Would have been nice to have more than a 1-year warranty. Basically, no maintenance options, so forget about upgrading SSD, forget about upgrading RAM, of course. And there is no touch display, there is no pen support, of course. You get those on some of the Windows laptops we look at. Very high prices for RAM and SSD upgrades, so just keep that in mind as well. And the webcam does not have Face ID, so that is something I think that needs to come to this line. Of course, you have that on Windows with Windows Hello. You don't have that here. But the overall takeaway is this MacBook Pro 14 with the M3 Max is excellent, especially if you're a content creator or any other person who doesn't mind spending the premium here. It's a very expensive device, but I think you get a lot for the money, all said and done. Again, I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments section below.
So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and that platform formerly known as Twitter. So until next time, this is Andrew, and I'll see you in the next video.